Welcome back to the multiverse of movies. I'm of course your host Isaac for today's video, and welcome to the year 2023. Happy New Year's to everyone. And today we're going to be talking about my most anticipated movies of the year. Now originally I was going to do a top 10 best movies, but unfortunately I was a little late, so instead on the community post here on the YouTube channel I'm going to be putting my top 10 favorite movies of 2022. Not going to make a solo video on that, but today I will talk about my most anticipated. There's a lot of movies that are coming out this year that I'm just way too excited for. I'm going to talk about that, and by the end of the video we're also going to be talking about the future of this channel, so stay tuned. So before we do, these are 10 movies that are my most anticipated. I'm not just saying that these 10 movies are the only ones I'm anticipating, but I'm just saying that these are my most in this order from 10 to 1. And I will be mentioning a couple of other movies, as honorable mentions. And we'll start off right now at the gateway, and I'll say Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Amongst Thieves. I'm actually excited to see this movie. Now, as somebody who's never played a single game of Dungeons and Dragons, I don't even know how you play it. All I know is you make up characters or whatever. I thought the trailer was amazing. I thought, Chris Pine, Michelle Rodriguez, the movie just looks like this fun adventure film that families are going to enjoy, people my age are going to enjoy. That literally, I feel like this is the kind of movie that I think everyone's going to enjoy, really. A fun, great movie with fictional characters that are so unique that you're just glad you went to the theater to watch it. And Dungeons and Dragons kind of feels that way. And also, another honorable mention I have is Transformers: Rise of the Beast. Now, I was going to have this in the top 10, but the thing is, I'm still a little worried because I do think the Michael Bay Transformer movies still left a sour taste in my mouth, especially The Last Knight, which to me, I don't think I've ever seen a worse movie in theaters than Transformers: Rise of the Beast. So Rise of the Beast is on the list, at least for honorable mentions, because I thought the trailer was good, the music was good, I thought everything about it was good. And another honorable mention I'll say is Shazam: Fury of the Gods. This is another one that almost made the top 10, and while I love that first film, and while I love Zachary Levi, and I love what the first movie was able to do, and I thought that the trailer for this second movie looked good, I'll still admit I don't think it'll be all that good as the movies that I'm about to list off. So let's head into this video. At number 10 to start off the list, I gotta go with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Now, as somebody who loves the first movie, but I thought the second movie was okay, it was alright, it wasn't memorable. It's a movie that I've seen very few times, really. I thought that the trailers for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania looked great, but the number one reason that I'll completely admit as to why this is in my top 10 is because it's Kang the Conqueror. I'm sorry. No, I don't care what this movie's title. It could be Spider-Man, Daredevil, Punisher. It could be any character ever, and I wouldn't care. At the end of the day, Kang the Conqueror's debut. I know he showed up in Loki, but we didn't really get to see him conquering in that. So, Kang the Conqueror just being there, played by such an amazing actor as Jonathan Majors, is great. To me, way before Endgame even came out, I've always said Kang was always a villain I've always wanted to see in the big screen. Even people in my personal life know Kang just because of how much I've talked about him. Same thing with characters like Doctor Doom, Galactus, and all that. I tend to be very big on villains, and one villain I've always said that I think was underappreciated by a lot of fans was Kang the Conqueror, because even heading in towards this saga, you saw a lot of people saying they wanted to see Doctor Doom or Galactus or any other villain, and Kang, now knowing that he is the big bad of this universe, is great. And just seeing him in the trailer was great. I thought the trailer was wonderful. I do love that it's a story about Ant-Man learning humility, and also having to establish, this world where he didn't get to see his daughter grow up for 5 years. And the trailer just looked good. They also played one of my favorite songs of all time, Yellow Brick Road by Elton John. So I did think that Ant-Man and the Wasp looked good enough to be there. Alright, but now at number 9, we got Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse Part 1. Now, this one was a no-brainer. Now, I did expect this to be higher on my list, and maybe I'll have to wait for the movie to come out, because I did think that trailer didn't really show us too much. I thought that trailer was just a teaser, really. And that's actually one thing that I do want to establish on my list. On this list, some things aren't just going to be here because we haven't gotten trailers for everything yet. So, there's that. And some of them have just been teaser trailers, so we also have to keep that in mind. But Across the Spider-Verse, to me, is just, it deserves to be in this list because that first movie is a masterpiece to me. It is my favorite Spider-Man film of all time besides Spider-Man 2, which just so happens to be my favorite film of all time, and I gotta give it props. So at number 9, Across the Spider-Verse. Now at number 8, it is Dune Part 2. Now, Denis Villeneuve gave us a masterpiece with that first film. Now, I'll admit I've never read the books, and I'm not a big book reader, so it's not a big surprise that I haven't read the books. But just watching that movie, learning more about the lore and everything was just breathtaking. The way Denis Villeneuve filmed that first movie. I remember I watched it in theaters the first time, and then I tried watching it at home the second time because, it was going day-to-day release on HBO Max. And the second time watching it, I'm like, no, this movie needs to be seen in theaters. And then I recently rewatched Dune again. And I'm like, this is a theater movie. I'm only wondering, like, Dune Part 2, like, holy shit, how do you even top that first film with Timothée Chalamet, who to me is one of the best current actors in the world. And you add in Florence Pugh into that movie, boom. Florence Pugh is one of the most talented actresses currently in the business. So Dune Part 2. An easy number 8. Now, at number 7, I feel like this will be on most people's list, but John Wick Chapter 4. To me, I've said this for a while, the character of John Wick, I think, is our generation's, us who are in our 20s, Gen Z and all that. I feel like it's our generation's James Bond or Mission Impossible, that kind of level of character. And I've loved John Wick because it's really the action. I don't think I've ever seen any better action. It's action that just excites me from the first second to the last second of the film. And to me, the character of John Wick going through his entire arc has just been amazing seeing, and the trailer was well done, and it gave me Matrix vibes, obviously, but I just thought John Wick Chapter 4 was great. And of course, the great Keanu Reeves is a phenomenal actor who deserves a lot of work, and I'm so excited to see John Wick Chapter 4, in general. So at number 7, that was John Wick 4. Now at number 6, now this one I don't think will surprise people. I think this will be on most people's list depending on who you are, but because my audience tends to be more in the comic book realm, it'll be a little bit of a surprise. But at number 6, I have Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer on my list because, look, I don't care if I had never seen a trailer for this movie, nor if I knew the cast at all. This movie would still be on this list because any year there's a Christopher Nolan film, to me it excites me. To me, he is again, this is subjective, but he is the only filmmaker who has never made a bad movie, at least to me. And I know The Dark Knight Rises nowadays gets shitted on a lot, but even that movie I like, even though I do think it's his weakest. Tenet I do think is amongst his weakest, but even his weakest films are freaking amazing. And he's not the best director, Spielberg, James Cameron. There's a lot of directors I'd say are better than Nolan. I do think Nolan's an easy top 5, but he does have that one record of he's never made a bad movie. So Oppenheimer is always going to excite me. Even just alone without, Nolan, the story of J. Robert Oppenheimer, just what is it like to be the guy who created the atomic bomb that killed thousands of people? And just seeing that kind of story unravel to me just seems so perfect for the same filmmaker that made Inception, Interstellar, The Dark Knight. He's made so many movies, and I don't know how people doubt Nolan nowadays. But anyways, at number 5, now this one will have more of a personal bias, and I believe there's only 2 movies on the list that don't have a trailer, and this is one of them. At number 5, I have Blue Beetle. Now, some of y'all are wondering, how the fuck do you have that so high up on the list? Well, it's simple. I know nobody wants me to say this, but I'll say it. It's because he's Latino. I get excited anytime I see major properties, major movies, star Latino actors. I always get excited for these movies. And not only that, but hearing all the buzz, seeing already the people who have watched the early reactions and all that, seeing that they love the movie is just amazing. And I'm, look, I'm biased because Cobra Kai to me is one of my favorite shows of all time. And Zolo Maridueña, he's amazing in that. To see that now he has a big comic role excites me. George Lopez is a guy who I grew up watching my entire life. So to see him, get this comic book movie excites me. And then hearing that the movie is going to revolve around Jaime Reyes and his Mexican family, is nice. And, I relate to him in the sense that he is Mexican American, has immigrant parents, and he is born in America. And to me, seeing the story of, what it means to be an immigrant and, what it means to be a son of an immigrant who struggled to get into this country. And not only that, but just the lore of Blue Beetle, I've always been a big fan of Blue Beetle in the comics. To me, I'm just way too excited to see what they're able to crack the code. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe the first trailer drops and I immediately won't like it. I don't know. But so far, even just the poster alone looks freaking cool. But anyways, at number 4, this one will also surprise people a little bit, but it's the Mario Bros. Movie. Now, Those first two trailers were amazing, especially that second trailer. They were amazing. I think the voices are perfect. I think it looks visually great. And not only that, but after watching Puss in Boots, I completely trust Illumination. I was never really a big fan of Illumination. Not a big fan of the Despicable Me movies. Not a big fan of Secret Life of Pets. I don't know what other movies they've done. Oh, wait, no, they did that one Grinch movie. I've never been the biggest fan, even though I think they have some decent movies. Overall, I've just never been a big fan. But watching Puss in Boots, seeing what DreamWorks is like under Illumination excited me, and just seeing how faithful they were to the Mario character in the trailers, to me, just masterpiece incoming. And number 4 is Mario Bros, especially as someone who played the Mario games my entire childhood. It's nice to see him now represented on the big screen. And so, yeah. Now, number 3, this one I feel like it's more of a surprise because people aren't really talking about this movie right now, but it is Zack Snyder's Netflix original Rebel Moon. Now, we don't have too many details on the movie, but just Zack Snyder alone is one of my favorite filmmakers. Zack Snyder's Justice League is a masterpiece. Batman vs. Superman is a masterpiece. Man of Steel is also, I love this Dawn of the Dead movie. Watchmen was phenomenal. I think he's made a lot of great films in his entire filmmaking history that, to me, even though I haven't seen a trailer, it just excites me knowing that Zack Snyder now has his own Snyderverse. And I know a lot of people are mad that he's not DC leader, but I love more that he gets to build his universe without any pre-existing history, because one of the biggest criticisms of Zack Snyder going into DC is that he changed certain things about Batman, Superman, and that frustrated people because he was messing with characters who have had hundreds of years of history. But now Zack has this clean slate. It can do whatever he wants with whatever he does. And to me, seeing that he's going to have this Star Wars style, it's like his version of Star Wars, that excites me. And even though we haven't seen a trailer, I think at number 3, safely, Rebel Moon is up there on the list. Now at number 2, people are going to wonder why I say this, but at number 2, it is still Andy Muschietti's The Flash movie. And yeah, I know there's a lot of controversy with Ezra Miller, but I'm sorry, it's the return of Michael Keaton's Batman. The story, The Flash to me has always been one of my favorite comic book characters, and I thought Ezra Miller was phenomenal in both versions of Justice League. He was great, and to see that now he's getting his own movie directed by Andy Muschietti, who I think made 2 great It films, especially that first It movie, which is one of my favorite horror films of all time. To me, it's just like I'm just anticipating. I'm just so excited to see what they're able to do with The Flash, and hearing the great early reactions. Even that quick sizzle we saw 2 years ago at what was it called? DC Fandom back in 2020 just excites me. So I'm going to be looking forward to what Andy Muschietti has in store. Seeing that, Michael Shannon returning as General Zod, which is still, to me, my favorite DCEU villain in the entire DCU we've had, whether it's under Zack Snyder, James Gunn, whatever. To me, just excites to see his return in this multiversal story of Flash, and especially because it's very loosely based on Flashpoint, which is one of my favorite comic book storylines of all time. Just excites me, and I cannot wait for the Flash movie. Now at number 1, I don't know if this is much of a surprise. I know I keep repeating myself with that, but it is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Now, I've said this. One of my favorite filmmakers in the last couple of years has been James Gunn. I've never gone to a theater and thought this James Gunn movie is bad. Whether it's the first 2 Guardians movies or the Suicide Squad, to me, he's a filmmaker who every time he delivers is just amazing. Peacemaker, to me, was still my favorite comic book property of the year. And yeah, that I believe it was better than the Batman, Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. You name it. To me, Peacemaker was the best thing that came out this year, at least comic book wise. And the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, the first one especially, is my second favorite MCU movie. It's a movie that I consider a masterpiece. It's a movie that is phenomenal. And the story about, being able to find family wherever it is a story I do feel for. I remember in one of my toughest times in my life, with my family specifically, I felt sadness. But the people that got me up, the people that helped me back up were my group of friends. Maybe we're not connected biologically, but guess what? They're still there for me. And to me, the Guardians always felt that way. And, especially because Star-Lord is my favorite character in the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. Seeing how emotionally impactful that trailer was, let alone, and to see a story about lost love, reconnecting with the past, running from the past, and everything just looks like it's going to be breathtaking. And just let alone James Gunn himself being able to finish off his trilogy. One last hurrah for the man, the maestro James Gunn, before he leaves to DC and becomes a traitor to Marvel. I'm just kidding, by the way. To me, I just can't wait to see what he does. I'm predicting this right now. I think Guardians is going to be my favorite movie of the year. And I think Guardians is going to be my favorite of the Guardians trilogy. To me, the first two movies have just been beautiful. Even the holiday special was beautiful. And my only worry about this movie is that this movie is going to cement a perfect trilogy that I just don't know if I can trust any other filmmakers to touch the characters of Guardians of the Galaxy. And I'm nervous for the future of this franchise, but I'm so excited to see that James Gunn can finish off his trilogy. So at number 1, we have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 as my most anticipated movie of 2023.